Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Sammy's going to be teaching you how to play Aerials by System of a Down. Now, off the bat, I've got to give props to Sammy. He wrote a sweet sounding arrangement, and one that I think takes full advantage of reentrant tuned, aka high G ukuleles. Now, I think it's pretty needless to say that this is an arrangement that's going to be best suited for the advanced player. There's a lot that's going to be required of your left hand in this tune. For example, you've got a stretch chord that requires your pinky to be quite Olympic. So you can see that I have my pinky finger on the 8th fret of string 4, and I'm barring across the 3rd fret on strings 1, 2, and 3. So a challenging chord to fret and hold down and have every note ring out and sustain. But that actually brings up a good point. If you are new to playing stretch chords, you want to jump into this lesson right here, which I'll link in the description box below. That lesson has a few exercises that you can add to your warm-up routine. And what you'll notice is over time, these exercises are going to help increase the reach of your left hand. So that means how far your index to your pinky can stretch. Now, staying on the subject of chords, another thing that this tune does is it introduces shapes that we typically do not play, such as that one, which sounds wicked cool. But that's a shape that we rarely encounter. And I'll go a step further. The last thing I want to touch on that makes this tune challenging is that it has you bouncing back and forth between both playing styles. So sometimes you're going to be finger picking and then you're going to switch straight into strumming. And you're actually going to be strumming out of this unique chord shape. And you're going to be strumming syncopated 16th note strum patterns, which in and of itself is challenging. So I think you're getting where I'm going with this. This is a tune that is best suited for the advanced player, and if that's where you're at, this is going to be a great challenge for you and very rewarding when you get it down. So with all that in mind, let's take a step back and let's talk about this lesson. So in this video, Sammy's going to be teaching you the first half of the tune, but if you want to learn the second half, he's going to be teaching that in the part 2 lesson, which you can watch by clicking this link right here, or going to the site rockclass101.com, doing a search for Aerials. Now, also on that page will be the tabs that you can print off to follow along with, plus the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. Now, this is a great feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish, just a great asset in learning this tune that much easier. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Sammy to teach you how to play this. Don't forget to grab the high G ukulele, and I'll catch you at the end of the video.
Hello. My name's Sammy, aka Four String Boy, and today we're talking about a band of mine that I absolutely adored growing up and still very much adore now. So hopefully you feel the same way and you have some teenage angst still left in you. Now for this arrangement, you'll need a high G ukulele, but before we actually talk about the piece, what I wanted to talk about was the rhythm and the feel of this intro riff of Aerials. So for our A section in the piece, we're using 16th notes. And if you're familiar or not familiar with 16th notes, essentially it just means we have 16 notes in a bar and we count those 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Now these neatly kind of written down, and when we count them, fit into groups of 4. 1 E and then you move to the next group, 2 E and which is essentially like going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Now, just because they're written like that, written down, doesn't mean that 16th notes will always be grouped into 4s. Sure, it is written down, but actually, if we listen to this riff, we have a different kind of grouping, a different kind of feel. And I think before we kind of talk about playing the piece, it's really important that you can feel the rhythm and the pulse of what's going on, so it's easier to memorize. So essentially, we're still playing 16th notes, but rather than going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, in the starting riff, we actually go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And maths tells us that that still does add up to 16. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Still 16 notes in the bar. So essentially, for those of us who struggle with rhythm and we're kind of counting along 1 E and 2 E and this initially might be a little bit harder to feel because you're kind of accenting every third note. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and that's pretty difficult. So like I say, if you really struggle with that, just break it down into numbers instead. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And hopefully that will make it an easier time memorizing it and getting the rhythm in. Okay, so first things first, throughout the piece, I'll be playing basically the G string with my thumb, the C string with my thumb, E string with my index, and A string with my middle. If you don't follow that, if you play Pima or something else, that is absolutely fine. You do not need to do the same as me, but like I said, you can, it's just a 3-finger fingerstyle. Now, even though we're talking about bar 1, for the first 4 bars, our ring finger is essentially going to be on the 3rd fret A string, pretty much just where our usual C chord lives. And that isn't going to move, okay? So you just need to get used to gluing your ring finger down here, and all the movement is going to be basically with your remaining fingers. It might feel a little bit strange, but it's kind of a good exercise also. So we know that our ring finger's on the 3rd fret A string. We need to put our middle finger on the 3rd fret C string. So 3rd fret C string, 3rd fret A string, and use my middle finger for the C string. Okay, so I explained the rhythm is really in 3s. So a pattern of 3, you're going to pluck the C string, then the G string, and then the A string. 1, 2, 3, just like that. C, G, A, 1, 2, 3. But like I said, technically we're playing 16th notes, so really we are going 1, E, and. Okay, so spend a little bit of time just getting used to plucking those 3 notes, because that pattern of 3 we're going to utilize a lot. So next what we're going to do is essentially we're just going to move to the 2nd fret on the C string, and I'd use your index finger for this. So we had middle finger for 3rd and then index finger for the 2nd fret on the C string, ring finger still on the A string, 3rd fret. And we're going to play that same pattern of 3, C, G, A, C, G, A, which is 1, 2, 3. So when I play the 2 back to back, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and again they're 16ths, 1 E and 2 E. Whatever you work out as better counting, you do you. Okay, so next, essentially we're just gonna release the index finger, so we open up the C string, and we're gonna play the same pattern of 3, C, G, A, and then we're actually gonna play the same pattern again, C, G, A. So we just get that pattern twice with the open C string. C, G, A, C, G, A. And again, you can count it as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, if it's easier. So that actually means that all the patterns of 3 for our bar are done. So we have the 3rd fret, 2nd fret, open, and then open. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 16ths, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and So once we've done 4 patterns of 3, maths dictates we need 4 more to add up to 16. So we have a pattern of 4. We're still on the open. We're in exactly the same place. Ring finger still on the 3rd fret A string. Now our pattern of 4 is essentially going to be G, C, A, C. So we go back to that C string. That's the only addition. C, G, A, C. And again, like I said, you can count that as a pattern 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or it will be 4, E, and A. So again, if I play through that, really I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So for our second bar, we're going to have the same idea, but we're actually going to move over to the E string this time. So I've still got my ring finger on the 3rd fret A string. Is it starting to hurt yet? Sorry. So we move our index finger to the E string. And so I'm going to pluck that with my index finger, but I'm still going to pluck the G and the A after it. So the pattern has slightly changed. So it now goes E, G, C rather than C, G, C. So index, 1st fret E string, E, G, C. And then we're going to move back to the 3rd fret C string. You can then release that index finger, that's totally fine. So then we come to the middle finger, 3rd fret C string, and we play a pattern of 3, C, G, A. And then we're just going to move down to the 2nd fret of the C string using our index finger, still keeping your ring finger there. And that is actually, we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that is again just C, G, A, C, G, A. So that's all of our patterns of 3. So if I play them all together, technically we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then all we're left with is our pattern of 4. Again, I'm not going to move from the 2nd fret of the C string, and it's going to be the same pattern that we played in bar 1. So that will be C, G, A, C. And that's our pattern of 4 for the end. So again, I can count that as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or again, if you prefer, you can count it all 16ths. Essentially, the 16th notes are continuous. There's no break in the rhythm. So really, as long as you keep it steady, that's all that matters. There's no rests, there's no breaks. So I think you'll be okay. So that means that line 1 will sound like this. 4, E, and Okay, so moving on to bar 3, we start off again with our middle finger on the 3rd fret C string. Again, ring finger always on the A string 3rd fret. So I'm going to play my pattern of 3, C, G, A. But actually, this time we've been descending every single time. We're going to go ascending. So we move over to our 1st fret E string. That means I need to go E, G, C for my pattern of 3, E, G, C. And so now we're going to stay on the E string for a little while. So we need to go to the 3rd fret E string next. So I'm just going to basically use my middle finger to go to the 3rd fret E string. You can see I've released my index finger there. If you feel more comfortable keeping it on, that's totally fine. It's just a bit more of a stretch, but again, just play around, see what's most comfortable. So now I've got 3 and 3 on the E and A strings, and that means I'm going to continue with this pattern of 3, E, G, C. And again, because I'm playing on the E string, I'm going to use that index finger to pluck. E, G, C. And then for our last pattern of 3, this one's the tricky one, because essentially we need to play the 4th fret. And because the whole piece is quite quick, we don't want to really move our hand around, which is why I've arranged it so we don't have to move our hand. So I want you to try and get that pinky finger on the 4th fret E string, whilst you've still got the ring finger on the 3rd fret A string. Now the whole time when I've put the pinky on, I'm not actually removing my middle finger. I'm keeping it there to kind of add some weight to it. And also I'm going to have to go back. You're going to have to descend back to it in a second. So if you can, try and keep your middle finger there, but if you can't, there's no big stress. So that means pinky, 4th fret E string, ring finger still on the 3rd fret A string, and I'm going to pluck my pattern of 3, E, G, A. So if I run all those patterns of 3 so far, we start off on the C string, and then we have basically the remaining 3 on this E string. So it kind of go middle, index, middle, pinky, like that. So we'd end up going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just like that. Okay, then for our last pattern of 4, this one's a little different because it's almost like 2 patterns of 2 rather than 4. So essentially what we need to do is we need to get rid of our pinky on the E string. So that means now our middle finger should still be on the 3rd fret E string. If you had to move it before, don't worry, you now need to put it back on. And essentially what we're going to do is pluck the E string and then pluck the G string straight after. And there's just 2 notes, E and G. And then straight after, we're going to descend to the 1st fret E string. And again, I'm going to use my index finger for that. And then you're going to pluck the same E, G. So that should sound like going E, G, E, G. Just our E string descends. E, G, E, G. And like I said, technically that's our pattern of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can also see it as 1, 2, 1, 2. But not to be too confusing, let's just stick to 4. So again, if I broke that down my count, we'd go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That bar itself is a very, very terrible hand exercise, so I'm very sorry. Play that one nice and slowly, okay? Just get used to it. Don't try and force anything. Just slowly get used to walking those fingers up there. The ring finger being in a constant position makes it way more difficult and will feel very strange. But again, it's very good for us. So just take it nice and slowly. Okay, then over to bar 4, who's much nicer and is almost exactly the same as what we've met before. So we essentially back to the 3rd fret C string with my middle finger. So I'm going to pluck C, G, A. I then move down to the 2nd fret on the C string, use my index finger, C, G, A. And then I'm going to open it up. So it's almost like the same as the first bar. C, G, A, and again C, G, A. So all of our patterns are 3 there. We end up going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then as we know, we have a pattern of 4 left. This one is ever so slightly different, okay? But I'm going to give you 2 variants here. So essentially, the one that's written down on the tab just means we go C, G, A, G. We don't go back to the C this time. And again, C, G, A, G. But because we have to then jump to a C minor chord quite quickly, what I will also recommend is that if it's too much trying to jump to that C minor, just miss out that last G string. So essentially it's kind of like you're playing then C, G, A, and you have a rest in order to get yourself to the next chord. Okay, so if you find that transition hard, give yourself a break, mate, and just cut out the last note. So we're technically going 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 4 is kind of a rest / moving time. Okay, so if we play the whole of line 2, it should sound like this: 4, E, and Okay, so now after bar 5, right, we have a lot of barring to do here, and dependent on your hand and how you feel is going to differ on how you bar. So essentially we need a C minor chord first of all, which technically is my ring finger on the 5th fret G string, and then I'm barring the rest of the strings. Now, to be clever, realistically, it'd be good if we barred the entire 3rd fret, every single strings, and then put our ring finger on top. Because essentially in a second, we're going to need that 3rd fret there. And if we don't want to move our hand, then bar all of the strings and then put the ring finger on. However, barring sucks and is really hard. So if that's too much for you, don't worry. We're going to be shifting our index finger around a lot, and we'll talk about that. So if not, just keep it to the 3 there. And then in a second, then you'll just essentially, as soon as you move your ring finger, we then take the full bar, okay? There's always lots of options in musical instruments, so don't worry, it's not one size fits all kind of thing. Do what is most comfortable for yourself. So we have the C minor chord here, and it's still going to be the same pattern. So essentially, we're going to this time pluck 1, 2, 3, but it's going to be G, E, A. And for me, that's thumb on the G, index on the E, and middle on the A. G, E, A. So for our next pattern of 3 is essentially what we're doing is we're getting rid of our ring finger, and then we need the whole 3rd fret barred. So that will be G, E, A as well. So really I'm going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, either bar the whole thing straight away and drop your ring finger on, or just have the C, E, and A barred and just your ring finger there, and then as soon as the ring finger goes, you can kind of just shuffle your finger over to get that 3rd fret on the G string. Now, talking of shuffling, we have to shuffle our fingers right now, because essentially the next thing that we need to play is we need an open G string. So we have 2 options, and that's essentially we just slide our bar, so now you're only barring the C, E, and A. So now I have an open G string, and I need to pluck basically G, E, A. Or you can essentially, because you don't need to bar the C string, you can just take the bar to the E and A strings and just do those 2. Whichever one you choose will affect the next bar. So when we talk about it, Remember this conversation that we're having right now, okay? You might find, because essentially we need to stretch in a second, and just the difference of barring 3 strings or 2 strings is going to be the difference of how well you can do that stretch. So again, all we've done is open up that G string, and we're going to play a pattern of 3, G, E, A. We need another pattern of 3, G, E, A. That's all of our patterns of 3. So again, we start with the C minor, 5th fret, and we go G, E, A, G, E, A, G, E, A, G, E, A. And again, from that 3rd fret there, I just shuffle my finger over, just so I'm kind of dragging it down and then releasing the G string. Now again, we always have a pattern of 4 at the end, so our pattern of 4 is still with the open G string, and I still need these 2 barred, so we're either barring C, E, and A, or just E and A, whichever you prefer. And our pattern of 4 is going to be G, E, A, G. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, we should end up with this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern that is the whole A section. Okay, on to bar 6, and this is where we need to quiz our barring, because essentially what we need to do is we need to be barring the 3rd fret, and again, you can bar the whole of it. That is one option. You can bar the C, E, and A, or you can bar the E and A. And so, the reason why I'm giving you all these options is because essentially, whilst we're barring that, your pinky needs to be fretting the 7th fret on the G string. And actually for me, when I'm barring the whole thing and then fretting my G string on the 7th fret, my A string really isn't that clear, okay? I'm struggling to bar that there. So actually, I would prefer to change either to a 2 bar or a 3 bar there. If I play it as a 2 bar, then I'm fretting my G string on the 7th fret, barring the E and A. That's a much cleaner A string now. And because essentially I can then shift as soon as I get rid of that pinky, I can shift my position into the next thing. It's not a big problem of whether I'm barring the whole thing or whether I'm not. So first of all, spend some time swearing at me and just trying to get comfortable with essentially, and comfortable is a terrible word, I'm sorry, but just see which bar suits you the best and which bar kind of gets us the cleanest A note. So like I said, I'm going to just bar the E and A strings. I've got my pinky on the 7th fret here. My thumb is right behind the fretboard so I can get maximum stretch here. And essentially I'm going to pluck the G, E, A strings. And then next, essentially, as soon as I get rid of that pinky, I need to be barring the entire 3rd fret again. So it doesn't matter I have to switch. I have time just to move that left hand right there into the bar. And so I'm just going to pluck G, E, A for that one. And that's my pattern of 3. So it would go G, E, A, G, E, A. And again, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Thankfully from there, our next job is then opening up the G string again. So again, you can either just move to a 3 string bar or a 2 string bar. And we're going to play our G, E, A, G, E, A. And that's all of our patterns of 3 done. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then to finish it off, we're in the same position for the pattern of 4. Same pattern of 4 from previous. We go G, E, A, G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if I play the whole of line 3, 4, E, and Okay, so moving on to bar 7. This is probably the trickiest one out of all of them. So we're going to start with our C minor again. Now, again, we're going to be stretching up the fretboard here to the 7 and even to the 8 on the G string. So again, think about how much of this essentially 3rd fret you want to be barring and how much is the most comfortable. So just experiment again. Like I said, I kind of bounce between 3 and 2, but like I said, you might find that one is more comfortable than the other. Okay, so we start off with that C minor chord, and then essentially we're just going to play the same pattern of 3, which is G, E, A. And that's again 5, 3, 3. Then we will stretch that pinky up to the 7th fret on the G string, and again barring the E and A here, but you can bar all 3, just like we talked about. But we pluck G, E, A. Now we're going to have to stretch one further fret, so that's the 8th fret. And like I said, 8th fret on the G, and then I'm still barring these two on the 3rd fret here. You can see what a wonderful, crazy position my hand looks like. If that stretch is physically impossible for you, okay, then don't worry about that. I would just play sort of 2 7s instead. So you play the 5-3-3, 7, 7. Play that instead. If the 8 is just out of reach, then don't break your hand. You can slowly ease yourself into it and try it, but if it is physically impossible, don't. So that means so far we've had 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then from here, we very much changed the pattern. So essentially, we're going to move our pinky from the 8th fret of the G string to the 8th fret of the A string here. Okay, so once we've got that pinky on the 8th fret on the A, what we're going to play is we're going to pluck the A string, then the G string, and then the A string. And that is still a pattern of 3. 1, 2, 3. And again, A, G, A. We're then going to descend on the A string to the 6th fret on the A string. I'd use your middle finger for this. So your pinky, middle, and then it'll be index for the 5. So with the middle finger, we're just going to pluck the A string once, and then followed by the G. This is kind of, this is a pattern of 4 again, but it feels like 2 2s like we had earlier. So A and then G. And then we move down to the 5th fret on the A string. And again, I'm using my indexing for that, and that'll be A, G. So from your kind of new pattern, if you like, where we're on the 8th fret, we kind of go 1, 2, 3, which was A, G, A, and then we remove that pinky and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, which is again A, G, A, G. And then next we come to bar 8. This one's a little bit more tame. So we're back to our C minor. We're going to be going to that 3rd fret again on the G string. So if you want to bar the whole thing, if you're most comfortable with that, then please do that. But essentially C minor chord. And then we're going to pluck our G, E, A. Remove your ring finger from the 5th fret. So you've just got the bar, G, E, A. And then put your ring finger back on, G, E, A. So that should be 3 patterns of 3 in total. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, once we do that, we have to play something called a C5 chord, which is essentially going to be the 3rd fret of the G string. And really, we only want to play the G, C, and G strings. So there's a couple of ways that you can be more careful about this. We're going to down strum them, and you can just make sure that you kind of just down strum those 3 strings without ever hitting your A string. Or what you can do is if you kind of hook that finger, you can actually kind of intentionally mute the A string. So that means you can strum all the strings and you never actually play the A string. I'm hitting the string, sorry, definitely hitting it, but I'm not letting it ring because it's muted. So like I said, either mute that A string or just be careful with your down strums, but essentially we're going to have 6 down strums in total. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now there is a little crescendo just above this, so it just means that we have to start off quietly with this and we build up in the strum. So technically we start off quietly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And by starting quietly, the easiest thing is to just do tiny little movements and just start to get bigger. And then essentially we start to get a little bit louder. So start small and gentle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and get bigger for those. So those are all 16th notes, and you can kind of count those as technically it still is a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 4 is just essentially space. Okay, so if I play the whole of line 4, it should sound like this. 4, E, and Okay, so let's play that A section the whole way through now. 4, E, and Okay, so moving on to the B section, the verse. This is a very, very different feel. We don't have this pattern of this 1, 2, 3 anymore. We're just really focusing on a 16th note count. Now for both 9 and 10, we're really focusing kind of just on one chord, and we have a small modification on the A string. Now, what I want you to imagine is if you play a G chord, but imagine that you bar it instead. So essentially, I would bar the 2nd fret, C, E, and A, and then I put my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the E string. So technically I've got a G chord now, 0, 2, 3, 2, but I'm essentially barring, and then I have my middle finger playing the 3rd fret. So just take that chord and move it up a fret for me. So we should have 0, 3, 4, 3. And that is essentially what's going on underneath, and then we have to add one more note that we'll kind of be removing and taking away. I use my pinky finger. You could use your ring finger, that's totally fine, but I use my pinky for the 5th fret A string. So the whole time I'm still keeping the bar underneath, because we're going to have to basically on the A string switch between 5 and 3 frequently. So this is it with the pinky added, 0, 3, 4, 5. And then if I remove my pinky, it should be 0, 3, 4, 3. So just give that a little strum first of all. Like I said, you can use your ring finger for the 5th fret instead. Whatever feels most comfortable. So once we've got that idea down, we're actually going to start with a 5 in here. I'll try and keep my ring finger out of the way so you can see what my pinky's doing. But essentially, we have one big down strum, and that's just a quarter note. So technically, it lasts for 1, E, and A. And we're going to count everything in 16th notes here because that is the main pulse going on, so it's easier to keep the rhythm. So we just go 1, E, and A for a big down strum. This is followed by another down strum on the 2. Then we'll have another down strum on the and, but we have to remove our pinky. So the whole time we're looking at the tab, essentially keep an eye on what the A string is doing. So I remove my pinky. So now I should have that 3rd fret on the A string. That's a down strum. And then I'm going to have an up strum and basically put my pinky back on. So really when we talk about 16th notes, it's good at this point to kind of break them down into groups of 4. So our first group was that first down strum, 1, E, and A. Then our second group will be 2, E, and A. And that's technically a down, down, up. And on the A string, I'm going 5, 3, 5. So for our next group, 3, E, and A, for the beat of 3, we kind of just miss it out. So I recommend still basically trying to do a down strum, just moving your hand that way, but you're not going to do anything there. So we go 3, and then for E, we just up strum, and again, my pinky's still on the 5 there, so we're technically going 3, E, then we down strum, removing the pinky. So far that would be 3, E, and again on the A string, it's 5, 3, 3, E, and then for the final up strum, we're going to put the pinky back on. So technically we go 3, E, and A. And again, that is 5, 3, 5 on the A string. So then so far we have 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and A. Real good to try and count out your 16th notes here because the rhythm is quite difficult. So for our final block, 4, E, and A. For the 4, we are missing again. So we go 4, and then we're going to come up, still pinky on the 5th fret, 4, E. For the and, you're just going to move your hand down again. So you go 4, E, and. And then for the last up strum, you basically going to hit it, but you're going to remove your pinky. So we've got the 3 on the A. So that will sound like 4, E, and A. 4, E, and A. And again, I'm just removing my pinky just before the last drum. 4, E, and A. So again, can be quite complicated, but if you break it down into blocks of 4, 1 E and A, and then 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, and kind of work on stacking them all together, so you kind of have a longer puzzle the whole time. We should end up with 16 in total, but that is it. Just take them 4 at a time. It's much easier to remember. So we end up with 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and A. Come to bar 10 and we have more madness like this. So we still have the same chord, which is this E flat major 11. Okay, so to start off with, 1 E and A. For the 1, pinky still on the 5th fret, and we go 1 E, and then again that's a down strum. 1. For the E, we do nothing, and then and A is a down with a 5, and then up, removing the pinky. So that is a 1 E and A. 1 E and A. Your next block is kind of fun. I think it's fun. So essentially it's 2 E and A. They're all going to be strummed, so it's down, up, down, up. And on the very last up strum, the A is basically we remove the pinky for the 3. So we do go 2 E and A. So only for the very last one do you remove the pinky. 2 E and A. So that means so far we have 1 E and A, 2 E and A. For 3 E and A, we just have 3 E and, be a down strum with a 5, 3 on the up strum, the E, we remove our pinky, and then we put our pinky back on for the and next down strum. And that's all we have there. So that will be 3 E and. And technically the A is an 8th note, so it's just left hanging. 3 E and A. So if you look down there, you'll see it's a big burst of 16th notes, but like I said, if we break it into 4s, it's just much easier to digest. So that means so far we should have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and A. Now the 4 E and A is nice and interesting. So for the 4, we're going to have a big strum, and again, pinky's still on the A string, so a nice big down strum, 4. And then for the E, we actually have to play a harmonic. So essentially what we're going to do is we're playing a harmonic on the C string. Don't adjust anything on your left hand, it's totally there for it. So we need to play this 12 frets higher, which means you have to go find your 15th fret. So hopefully you have a nice fret marker on there. If you don't have a 15th fret, then just play the harmonic where the 15th fret should be. It still works. So we're just going to use our harmonic technique. As before, I always use the same technique. I use my index finger, and then I use my thumb to pluck, just like that. So again, we're trying to find the fret line that is kind of between 15 and 16, and you just want to play a harmonic there. So it's down strum, and then we play the harmonic on the C string. Down, harmonic, 4, E. After we've done that, I'm going to pluck the A string with my middle finger, and then I'm going to pull off, or use my pinky finger, to the 3rd fret, which we should already have barred. So in total, that would be 4 E and A. And again, down, harmonic, pluck A, pull off. 4 E and A. Okay, so verse line 1 will sound like this. 4 E and A. Moving on to part 11, thankfully you get a break from barring. Hooray! Which is very nice. So we have a couple of things going on here, and that's essentially we just need to pluck 1 E and A, but all C string. So I'm just going to do it with my thumb and just go 1 E and A. That's all I'm going to do. Now, essentially, we're just running down with some big old shapes on the E and A string. So our first one is we put our index finger on the 4th fret E string, and then you need your pinky on the 8th fret on the A string. So you should play all those strings together, and you get that lovely sound. Now, essentially, when we're first playing our opens, you can kind of get towards that shape, but we do have 4 beats, 1 E and A, before we need to do a big strum on beat 2 with that chord. Now this line is going to come in a lot, okay? So essentially the count will be 1 E and 2 E and So the strum lasts for a whole quarter note, 2 E and The second half of our bar is pretty much exactly the same. Now, basically on the left hand, we're always going to keep these 2 fingers on the fretboard. We're just kind of moving them down slowly. So we're going to move our index finger to the 3rd fret, and then we want our pinky on the 6th fret, which is Sammy's favourite voicing of a C minor chord ever. So it's pretty much going to be the same, but this, I'm going to give you an optional thing. So we either did the same, we go da, 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 strum, which technically this time would be 3E and 4E and but you'll notice that just above the opens now, we have essentially PM, which stands for palm muting. And then we have this dashed line. And the dashed line is just showing you basically everything that should be palm muted. Now, if you're not familiar with palm muting, it essentially means you have to have this part of your hand sit on the strings as close to the bridge as possible. So you're just going to sit them on, not put any pressure on. But as soon as you do that, what you should notice is your strings sound quite dead. You should still be able to hear the pitch, but rather than sounding like that with a sustain, they sound quite dead. Now that's palm muting, and essentially for the rest of these, I will be palm muting them. So technically, I'm dropping my hand here, and I'm still using my thumb, and I'm just going to play those 4 notes, 3, E, and then the 4, I'm not palm muting the chord because it would sound weird. Palm muting works best with like 1 or 2 notes, so I'm just going to palm mute those, 3, E, and then for the strum, I'm just letting go of the palm mute and let my hand come down for that down strum. Now, like I said, that's optional. You don't have to put the palm muting in. Without the palm muting, 3, E, and 4. With the palm muting, 3, E, and 4. The palm muting just essentially creates a bit more dynamic, right? So we have this quiet little dun, 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 and then a massive chord. Again, completely optional. So moving on to bar 12, we very much have the same. We're on 3 and 6, so we need to move this down to 1 and 5. So that means index finger on the 1st fret E string, and then your pinky finger is on the 5th fret A string. And again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to palm mute, and like I said, it's up to you whether you palm mute or not. I'm going to palm mute and pluck the C string 4 times, 1, E, and then a big strum on the 2. 1, E, and 2, E, and And then for the next half of the bar, our very last chord is not a big stretch anymore. I'm just essentially going to move my index finger up 2 frets to the 3rd fret and just bar the E and A strings both on the 3rd fret there. And again, I'll palm mute the C string, 3 E and 4 E and So that's line 2 of our verse, and like I said, we're actually going to see this line quite a lot, okay? So he's going to come up, and it's really a nice break from the barring. I'm very thankful that it works out this way. But here's a playthrough of line 2 for the verse. We'd go 4 E and 1 E.
Alright guys, so a big congrats on getting the first half of this tune down. If you'd like to learn the second half, Sammy's going to be teaching that in the part 2 lesson, which you can watch by clicking this link right here, or going to the site rockclass101.com and doing a search for aerials. Now also on that page was the tabs that you can print off to keep for your records, plus that really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. So you can literally hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed learning the first half of this tune, and we'll catch you in the part 2 lesson. Take care.